Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Fact Sheet Live on ETV, live on NISIM 95.9 and 100.1. Tonight we're live on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Our handle as always is ETV Ghana. I'd be glad you followed us this evening and shared your thoughts, your views and comments with us. And you're welcome to Fact Sheet. My name is Samuel Ishen and it's always a pleasure to welcome you to the show. As you always would know, here, if it's not a fact, we don't discuss it. When we sit here most of the times, the issues we raised normally have to do with the economy, have to do with finance, have to do with security, have to do with education in this country. But we seldom talk about the arts, the film, and the drama industry. Most of the times we forget about them and we talk about the cons, security, education, and all. But at the end of the day, when you get to your house with all the troubles and issues on your back, you'd need something to calm you down. You'd have to watch your TV, the movies, the films, the TV series, most of them. That's what calms us down at the end of the day. But how is that industry doing? How much time and attention do we pay to this industry as a nation? Budgets are read consistently, they feature, but as to the fulfillment of the promises in the direction of the arts and film industry, we seldom focus attention on. Tonight, that's our focus on Fact Sheet. We'll try to understand and appreciate the film industry, not from the local point of view, but from the international point of view. I encourage you to stay with us as we have this conversation. Do stay with us. We're taking a short breather. When we come back, I'll introduce you to my guests, and you'll be blown away who is in the studio with me, especially for those of you who love British series. I won't give you the clue, but stay with us. I'll be right back. And welcome back. You're live on ETV. You're live on Facebook. I've seen that a couple of folks have joined us this evening. It promises to be a very engaging, interactive, and exciting conversation tonight. And let me take you through some small information about the individual I'm going to be speaking to tonight on the show. He is a British actor, popularly known for his role in the British series EastEnders. If you watched EastEnders before, you would have to stay with me because one of the key actors in there is my guest tonight on the show. Now, he was born in September 1939 in Barataria, Trinidad and Tobago, and took to acting at a young age of 8. He migrated to the United Kingdom in pursuit of his career in acting and has since lived there. In 2006, he was awarded the OBE, that's the Officer of the British Empire, for his services to drama. This was followed up in 2020 with an award of Commander of the British Empire, CBE Award, and 2020 New Year Honours for services to drama and charity presented by Prince Charles at St. James Palace. Tonight, folks, I am thrilled, I am honoured to be hosting Mr. Rudolph Walker. If you watch EastEnders, you'd have seen him in there. Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
And it's good to have you in the studio.
Well, it's fantastic to be here. It's fantastic to be in Ghana. You know, this is probably my third or fourth visit. And I call it my spiritual home.
Interesting.
It's just amazing. When I first set foot in Ghana, I did something most extraordinary in that I came in, it was midnight when I landed in Ghana, first of all on my way to Nigeria. Came off the aircraft and I did something that I suppose only the Pope would do, and that I kissed the ground. And this is not having set foot in Ghana or any part of Africa, and it is something that happened instinctively. And since then, yes, it's been fantastic. There's always a soft spot for Ghana. So here I am home.
Interesting. It fits the description that's always given you in EastEnders when they describe you as the lovable gentleman in there.
No.
I love the energy. Patrick, you are Patrick in there.
Yes. But hang on, there's a slight difference because you said the lovable gentleman. in EastEnders, I'm the lovable rogue. there's a subtle difference, you know.
In there.
He's a rogue. I might be the gentleman. I mean,
Anyway, but I'm not only here with Mr. Walker tonight. I'm here with Yadana Hamid Kobila, who is a GAFTA member and MD for Damba Multimedia. And there's a project that's ongoing, and he's one of the facilitators for Mr. Walker's presence in the studio. And he would throw more light on the reason why Mr. Walker is in the studio. Idana, good evening.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you in the studio.
Same here, my brother.
Now, Mr. Walker, let me start with you. I have tried as much as possible to, give a sense of who you are. For those who may not have seen any of your movies, the TV series you would have been in, who is Mr. Walker?
I'm asking that at the age of 82. I'm still asking that question. Who is Mr. Walker? It's Mr. Walker is a young man, or I say a young man, no,
young man of 82.
Of 82, as you said in your comment that who left the UK, left Trinidad in 1960, really to further my career in the theater, because there was no such thing as drama on the professional stage in the Caribbean at the time. And I thought through, my love for the theater from an early age, where should I go? And I ended up in the UK. To cut the story short, I ended up in the UK. The road from then to here has been ups and downs and challenges. You name it, Rudolph Walker faced it. Yes, so here I am today, having done things like a very controversial series back in the 70s called Love Thy Neighbor, which raised today, it wouldn't be acceptable. We can talk about that at some stage and why it wouldn't be acceptable. And from that, I also launched my own foundation, which is called the Rudolph Walker Foundation, working in schools, especially in areas where there are problems in the homes and problems with youngsters and being harassed and things like that, and lack of opportunity. So I go into schools and try to inspire them and mentor them together with, I have a team of people who help me. And I'm involved in all sorts of various little charities where I try and give something back to the people who have supported me over many years.
Now, you described Ghana as your spiritual home. Why would you say that?
It is so similar, number one, to Trinidad. The way of life, the sense of humor. There's something very interesting happened when I came into Ghana, so when I kissed the ground and all that, then I flew to Nigeria, spent, I think, about 10 days in Nigeria, and came back to Ghana. And I stayed with a fantastic family who we'll probably talk about, the Busbys. Dr. Busby was a very close friend of Nkrumah. And rather than stay in the UK when he achieved his degrees and everything, and he decided to emigrate to Ghana and help, make a contribution to build the infrastructure and the health service. And I stayed with his family, and that's where I am staying now. But something very interesting happened. They took me to Takoradi. I hope I did pronounce it, and second.
Yeah.
And we were driving in the car, and I started describing, as we were going around, I started describing the areas that I've never seen in my whole life. Around the corner there is this house. Must be a piece of land, and this house is going to look something like Trinidad. And lo and behold, it was as though I'm seeing a picture. And I stayed with a overnight with an old lady. I can't remember her name now, but you know, she was in her 80s then, and I had a choice of either staying with her or going to home of a presenter, one of the Ghanaians presenter. And I said, no, I'll stay with her. But they warned me. They said, look, Rudolph, as you notice, you have to sleep on the floor. So what? When you get up in the morning, you have to take a bucket and a sort of, was it a calabash or something? And you'd have to stand at go to the standpipe, and that is how you're going to have your shower. And there I am, it was in the 70s, standing in my birthday suit with a thing to pour the water over and I felt at home. I felt refreshed, I felt spiritually strong, I felt, you know, everything that I envisaged and I hoped for. And since then, that's what I say, if there is a second home, if there is a spiritual home, it has to be in Ghana. And I have been to South Africa, I've been to Kenya, I have been to Zimbabwe, you know, but my thoughts and my loves has always come back to Ghana.
Interesting. Now, let's talk about the journey, because you spoke about the experiences, you talk about the challenges you've been through, 70s, 80s, where white dominance is what we are talking about, where racism is rife, where for you as a black man to get such a role was a challenge. What's been the journey?
Well, that journey, let us, first of all, when you, as an actor, and as a black actor, black Caribbean actor, I couldn't afford to go to a full-time drama school, so my journey then was to go to evening classes, which I did. A 3-year evening class, and during the day I worked in the government in a printery, you know, either be newspapers or private, doing jobs, magazines and things like that. And while in the evening classes, after the second year, it's supposed to be a 3-year course, the principal called me into his office, and I thought, well, what have I done? You know, I'm sitting, and he said, you know, Rudolph, we've watched you for the past 2 years. I know it's a 3-year drama course, but I think you should go out there now. You're equipped enough to go out and face the world as a professional actor. So I thought, really? And it coincided with one of the drama teachers saying to me, there is a play that they're casting for in London. I think you should go and be interviewed. I said, hang on, I haven't done anything. I'm only just arrived and I haven't got a you know, portfolio. He said, no, you go ahead. And I went and to discover that they had seen nearly all the black actors in London at the time. And to cut a story short, yes, I got the part. And it was an amazing experience. And one of the things that happened to me on stages, here I walked on stage and the entire audience white. But you know, I walked on and I said, this is what I have to face for the rest of my life. And there was a sort of an inner strength. I don't know if that came from my mother. I don't know where that came from, but I thought, yes, this is my home. I am going to face any battle that are thrown at me. And that's how the journey began. And it was a period when you only get a part because it's written for black actors. You know, so the script has to specify a black road sweeper, a black doctor, a black this, a black that. And writers weren't writing for that. So if, for instance, my agent look at the breakdown for a television play, and they see a doctor, they see this character, they see a nurse, they see that. And she said, well, you know, Rudolph, you can play that part. Put me forward. The casting director would say, no, I'm sorry, but it's not for a black actor. And that's the end of the story.
So that was how pronounced it was?
That's how pronounced it was. When you do get through the door, what is your experience? You only gain experience by working. So that presented a huge problem because, of course, you know, there was no background. I worked in the amateur theater, but they're not interested in that. What have you done professionally? And you know, that there is this old saying, when one door closes, another one opens. That's one saying. And my other thing that I that I hold dear to me is my school motto: perseverance wins. And I hold that motto till today. So what I did, I embarked on writing to every single director in the UK, television, stage, film, 200-300 letters. I wrote and sent out. So there they are, you know, these directors opening in BBC, ITV, opening their post box and finding Rudolph Walker. 99% of them discarded it. And the odd director in the theater looked at it, and one in particular invited me to play Othello. And that was great. And even that, there was a story behind it, because I was doing something on television at the time, and supposed to be a long-running series called United, all about football. And and they had written me into 4 episodes and said, look, Rudolph, we'll bring you back. There's a gap of a couple of months. And at the same time, I had this offer to go and play Othello. What do I do? Television or the theater? Do I stay on and be known back in the 60s? And I thought, no, I'll go and do Othello, which the BBC wasn't too pleased. But I did it. I didn't get back on television in United, but it was a learning curve. What I wanted to prove to the directors is that you can use the excuse that it's not written for a black actor. Then you can also, you can't use the excuse that I am not experienced. I have done this and I have done that. So you can no longer change the goalpost. But believe you me, that it was changed again, even with that. Well, you know, Mr. Walker, we are bringing over an American actor to play this part. So the goalposts have been forever changing. And that has been the pattern over many, many, many years.
Let me take you back a bit. Your first stage performance, where you said that there was a crowd of only whites. What was the reception, that first performance? What reception did you receive?
Well, I received a very good reception. But I measure it not so much by the audience reaction, because I was just a member of the cast, and people who saw it said, you know, they enjoyed my performance. But it was in the words of the director, who was a very powerful director in the UK at the time, the late Charles Marowitz. And he said to me, because I was still what you call an amateur actor, I was just doing walk-on parts on television and films, and he said to me, pulled me aside one day and he said, you know, I think you should give up printing and go full-time. So that really, to me, was what the industry, or certain people within the industry, thought of me at the time. And to even to enhance his observation, he called me in or asked me to do his version of Othello much later on in life, and also another play in his theater. So yes, in answer to that question, that was the sort of response that I had then. But you know, overall there was always that determination, you know, that in the determination to succeed. And when I say succeed, again, we talk about the measure of success. And when I talk to students, I don't measure success in pounds, shillings, and pence, and in dollars. I measure it in the response I get from people, how much I can help people as I go along. It's not a Rolls Royce outside or a big house. And in fact, it's very modest and very down to earth. But it's when I visit a school and the reception, most of the time I get from the students and other organizations. That's how I measure my success in the industry.
Let's talk about the very controversial Love Thy Neighbor project. You know, a show that touched on very sensitive issues as racism, you know, anti-immigration policies and all. Playing that role, how did it feel like?
Fantastic. It was. No, we are talking about the 70s, and I think we have to be very careful here that we don't, today is today, and it wouldn't be acceptable. I take my hat off and say, great, that is fine, and I accept that. Back in the 70s, we have to remember, first of all, that there never on television, up until then, been a black character who would stand up to a white character, who came into your home 4 nights a week or twice a week for 5 years, and you talk about him, where the ratings was 99.9% every time it was transmitted, where, you know, you go to Nigeria, you go to the Caribbean, you go to other parts of the world, and people, certainly in the Caribbean, in Trinidad in particular, the show started at 7 o'clock, the roads were empty. It was absolute quiet. So it had a phenomenal success in those days. One of the things that when asked in an interview, is that when they cast me in the series, the thing I said to the director and the producer and the writers at the time, and I made it absolutely clear, that yes, I am happy to play this character, but never must he be an Uncle Tom. If the character hit me, I'm going to punch him back. If he calls me a name, I'm going to respond accordingly. So in other words then, that he is not going to dominate me and I'm not going to dominate him. So as long as they put that in place, I had no problems whatsoever. And you know, back then you walk into a school, I walk into a school, and the response from the schools in, for instance, Brixton, the viewers who familiar with the geography and what is happening in the UK, Brixton, Bristol, Notting Hill, places where there's a high percentage of Afro-Caribbean or black people, where, you know, the racism was sort of rampant and there have been a lot of problems. You walk into a school and the response from the youngsters were just phenomenal, because this is the first time that they can say to their white counterpart, you put your hand on me and I'm going to hit you. And it wasn't just that sort of physical thing, it's that youngsters walk with a certain amount of pride. And to me that was incredible. You know, so it's a series that I am proud of having done. I have moved on, because after finishing that series I was asked to play parts that were similar, and I said no. That was for then. And neither would I criticize, and this is very important, because there have been from time to time, and especially in the last few years, where I say sort of pseudo-intellectuals have come out and criticized me for playing the part of Bill Reynolds in Love Thy Neighbor. And my response to that is that the reason why, for instance, I am sitting here today talking to you is because of Love Thy Neighbor. My career didn't jump from Rudolph Walker in Trinidad to EastEnders. There's been a road. There's been ladders. There have been hurdles. and love thy neighbor was one of them. You know, and also I also sit in awe and take my hat off to pre-love thy neighbor, to the 30s, when black actors in America were rolling their eyes, who were playing slaves, who had to do it at the time. They also laid the foundation for Rudolph Walker to do what he did in Love Thy Neighbor. You see, so it's all a matter of, you know, you have to, the baton has been passed on. You know, so we have to take all that into consideration when you criticize. You don't, you know, you don't dismiss the past. We learn from it. We take it and we say, yes, that was great. That was fine for that time. How can we improve? How can we take that as a nation, as a people, and move on?
Would you say that show created a generation of black youth back then who were a bit more resistant at the time?
Yes, I mean, I would like to think so, but I personally can't, I wouldn't take the you know, the accolade for that, but it was always an ever-changing. It might be that, it might be rats in Notting Hill Gate, it might be all sorts of aspects that change the youth, and that it's a forever changing landscape. That might be just 1% of what forced some sort of changes. I know that for me personally, it was a time when I set up, well, not set up a foundation, visiting the schools at the time. There was something called stop and search law that was introduced. They call it SUS, where youngsters were stopped, mainly black youngsters, and if they congregate in a group, meant no harm, and they were stopped by the police. And visiting these schools, these youngsters said, well, what do we do, Mr. Walker? You know, we are being harassed. You know, and I asked the question, well, how do you mean, what do you do? You know, growing up in Trinidad, and I'm sure over here is exactly the same thing, there's nothing wrong with a group of kids after leaving school. We play football at the corner, or we stop and we make jokes with each other. 10, 15 minutes, no harm, and then we go to our various homes. Why is that different in the UK? So I came up with a plan of introducing something called an inter-school drama competition. And I got 2 schools involved, the Dick Shepherd School and the Tulsill School in Brixton. And the idea was that they would get together in groups of 5 or 10, write, direct, and produce their own 10-minute drama piece. Then the school would select maybe the 3 best groups from their school, and on a Sunday I would invite celebrities to come to one of the schools in their assembly hall, and they would perform in front of their parents and friends and get awards for the best actors and things like that, and best drama, best direction. But the idea behind that was to give them something to do outside school hours, because that was the thing. They had to rehearse outside school hours, in their friends' homes, or in the playground, or somewhere. But also what it did, it gave them a sort of a self-confidence. You know, it made them realize that with drama, you have to rely on each other. You walk on stage, you have to support each other. And I find it appalling, and I'm going to slightly switch and take it a little bit further. I find it tragic that today drama is not an integral part of the curriculum. Because it teaches the youngsters so much. It prepares them for life in the future. It gives them confidence. So when I introduced that, it became a huge, tremendous success. Some of them, and not necessarily because they want to do acting. Some of them have gone on to do great things. But what it did, as I said, gave them that confidence.
Mm.
And out of that, it wasn't through my instigating it. We also had at the schools a visit by the late Muhammad Ali. And he was so impressed with the work and what was going on at the school, in the school at the time. Now, fast forward, what happened is that the schools closed, they no longer exist. You know, it's now a housing estate. And a few years ago, on my 70th birthday, I decided to launch the Rudolph Walker Foundation, doing exactly the same thing, but in a more advanced stage. We're involving schools right across the UK. We are now looking at schools in Trinidad, and it is something that I hope that I would have a conversation with 1 or 2 schools here in Ghana.
That would be nice, but my final 2 questions before we go for a break, and then I will dedicate the rest of the time to you, my brother. One has to do with whether you'd classify yourself as a civil rights advocate, regardless of your field you found yourself.
Oh, I advocate civil rights, regardless of, you know, yes, very much so. I am not, and have never been, what you call a frontline platform speaker. It is not my strength. It is not my forte. I know where my strengths are and my weaknesses, and I am more for doing things, working from the grassroots, inspiring youngsters, giving them just tell them that each and every one of us are capable of getting to the limits. You know, the sky is the limit for every one of us, regardless of your background, regardless of where you come from. I came from a single parent family. You know, what I would call in those days, not even in those days today, somewhat very poor. You know, so that was never an issue, was never a hurdle. Regardless of where you come from, it's immaterial. As long as you have it within you that you want to succeed, nothing can stop you.
Final one has to do with the country you call your spiritual home. And the fact that you make the case that, you know, it hurts you, that, you know, the drama, the plays, you know, we used to have. Now we don't see them anymore. If it's there, here there's a semblance of the growth of, you know, playwright and drama and all that, stage and all of that, performances. But from where you sit back in the UK, looking at the Ghanaian movie and film industry, how would you describe what is happening here?
One of the things that I think is very, very important, and I you know, things have changed so much over these years as the film industry has changed. You know, this pandemic has created, it's created problems. On the other hand, I think it should be a plus. It means that you know, you'd have to focus a lot more. And what I say not only of Ghana, but I also is either a criticism or something of even Trinidad and the Caribbean, is that I want to be able to sit in my living room in Trinidad, switch on, or in the UK, switch on and see a drama or a soap or a comedy coming out of Ghana, coming out of Trinidad, that can stand shoulder to shoulder with anything that I see in the UK.
Let me paint a picture for you. You came just yesterday night.
Came this morning, more or less.
This morning, good. So if you, for the next few days, except for my TV station, and you watch the rest of the networks, what you're going to see is a lot of telenovelas, imported shows, mostly from the Philippines, from the Mexicos, and the rest of them. Our market is saturated with that of foreign content. Analyzing this, what path should we be taking and what should we be doing?
You have to, well, it is very difficult for me to say, because I am not in the position, I don't have that global knowledge of how the real, because we are talking about finance now.
Indeed.
You know, at the bottom line, that's where we are at. But I think it is so important to build that infrastructure. It is so important to have, you know, as my mother would say, put your house in order first. So it is so important to put your house in order, to know what quality you have to aspire to know.
But do you see an interest on the part of African governments, for that matter, showing interest in the arts industry?
Well, they're very short-sighted if they're not doing so, because it can open avenues. I mean, could you imagine that a television series set in Ghana? I mean, England, they do it in some of their television series, some of their programs. A television series set in Ghana that is showing the geography, that is taking the real Ghana into the picture, not some tourist or not someone coming and talking and making a documentary or doing something for British television, walking into either the worst parts or whatever it is and showing it over. But you're taking a drama that really encompasses, you know, the beauty and the heart of Ghana, and you find a market for that in the UK. It might be 11 o'clock at night, it doesn't matter. That viewing figure would increase, because there is a show now that is being very popular in the UK called Death in Paradise, and it's filmed down in the Caribbean. People are now queuing up to go there because of its beauty, because what they see is fantastic. I think Ghana has so much to offer, and we can do so much through drama. So much through drama.
Well, if you just join us tonight on the fact sheet, I'm here. I'm speaking to Mr. Rudolph Walker. We're having a conversation about the arts, drama, play, stage, performances and all. His experience and how we could pick one or two from it and build upon ours in this country. We're taking a short breather when we come back. I'll try and have some 15 minutes conversation with Idana, who managed to pull Mr. Walker into the country. We'll be right back. And you're welcome back to Fact Sheets live on ETV, live on Facebook, live on NISIM 95.9 and 100.1. You can join the conversation this evening if you go to Facebook and you look for Facebook and you just search for ETV Ghana. You'd find us there, and let your comments be made available. I'd read them when I do have the time. But Mr. Idana is here with me, and I am looking at a very, very, very tight schedule they have drawn for Mr. Walker. And I'm asking myself, would he be able to fulfill all these? Mr. Adana, good evening once again.
Good evening again, my brother.
So I'm looking at all this. Yes. There's Sekendi Takrade, there's Kowutao, Tafo, there's Tamale. I'm putting information across. But what made you pull him to Ghana?
Let me say he made me pull him to Ghana because it was his own decision.
Okay.
I just got involved because myself and Mr. Walker had met earlier in Ghana on one of his, personal trips. I was called by a friend who wanted me to cover an event he held at the British Council.
Okay.
So what I realized was that Mr. Walker, he likes to mentor, he likes to share experiences, he likes to learn also. He likes to use that word a lot. And, when I came to cover the event, it so happened that we both, took a liking to each other. He loved what I was doing as a young documentary filmmaker. And of course, I also enjoyed the knowledge and experience that he impacted. And so we kept, in touch. And so once a while, it could take a year or two, but once in a while, we'll just say, hi, how are you doing, and all of that. And he's also very busy in the UK. So once he found the free time and he said he was going to visit Ghana, he made me aware. And of course, you know, he wanted to find out, as usual, if he could share experiences, if he could share knowledge, if he could, you know, just interact with people in the industry, culturally, and all of that. And I thought, this is an interesting opportunity. Because I'm a filmmaker myself, and I'm a member of the Ghana Academy of Film and Television Arts. I also love to, you know, share my experiences because where I come from in Ghana, I come from the northern part of Ghana, and you know, what we have here, we don't have over there. And so, if you, like you said in the itinerary, you have tamale and all of that in there.
Yes, I see.
And he virtually said, look, take me, do whatever you want. And so even though I was drawing the schedule, I would always check with him, is this okay? Would you be able to do this? Is there going to be enough time for you to do that? And he said, yes. Let's see what happens. And I'm sure you are the first witness to say that originally ETV was not even part, but it's become our very first engagement. You know, he landed this morning and he's already here. So I'm sure, yes, it's a tight schedule, but I'm sure we'll be able to do it. And it's just important to have him go through these because I want to be a bit selfish. You know, there is Accra, of course, there's Tekendit Takradi, but I also want, you know, the young bloggers, the young filmmakers, those in the arts, actors, and all of that in the northern part of Ghana to have an experience with him, to just meet him and have a conversation like you are doing, so that we can all share. You know, yes.
I see he will go for the premiere of 28th February Crossroads shooting.
Yes.
You know, I was going to ask the question whether he was going to be there because it's a beautiful, you know, animation movie. I saw the trailer and I was, wow, I need to be there. And so I'm happy that, you know, with that Pan-Africanist, you know, thing in you, I'm sure you'd love this movie. But let's talk about, let me forget about Accra and Takrady, and let's focus on your origin because you want to be selfish. So let's stay on the area where you want to be selfish. What basically is he going to be doing there?
Okay, so even though I said I want to be selfish, but I'm also a member of the Ghana Academy of Film and Television Arts. And you know, at the Academy, one of the things we like to do is to foster relationships. And relationships not just with anybody, but people who have been there, who have done this and done that. You know, and so his coming, we thought there was a very good opportunity to relate with him, to just have a conversation with him in the evening with members of the Academy. And then, like he said, he could learn from us and we can also learn a lot from him. And for me, that is one of my #1 interests. Once that is done, then of course, forgive me to use the word, I would kidnap him to the north.
Well.
Now, like I mentioned earlier, the northern part of Ghana is bustling with people who are creative, who have used the tools that they have. The tools might not be as technologically advanced as what you have here, but the stuff that they do is just amazing. The content is amazing. And I see some of them share stuff on YouTube, and people in China, in Japan, in the US would virtually copy what they have done and try to replicate it. And for me, that means that there's something in there. And the little we can do is to get them in touch with people who have, you know, had this experience, you know, in the world stage, to bring it down to them, for them to have them at their feet. You know, sometimes you'll be doing something, but if you haven't actually met people out there who have been through it, to just give you the confidence that you're on the right track. And also that if you're able to sit and cut bread with someone of your stature, you have no idea how that would boost you up to actually believe more in yourself and where that could take you. He just mentioned that, you know, he likes to encourage schools to take part in drama competitions. I went to Tamale Secondary School. I'm sure the other schools, even in Accra, the Achimoters, they will be so jealous. You know, Tamasco is one of the greatest schools that we have in this country. And it has produced, you know, really important people. It's produced a president for Ghana. The current vice president is a product of Tamasco. And I would just love to have Mr. Rudolph Walker go to Tamasco and interact with the students. you would never know. Somebody might be inspired in there to take up a career, to follow his career path, or to do any other thing that they want to do. The other thing is that I would want to take him to other parts of the north, not just in Tamale, where he can interact with people in the traditional sector like chiefs, because he's a lover of the arts, he's a lover of culture and all of that. And we don't know what would come out, but I think we just leave it open. Maybe he might extend some of the work that he does with his foundation over there, and I would really love that to happen. That you have a relationship, in somewhere in the north. It could be a village called Pasimpe or Nalergo or Gambaga, a school in there, being part of Rudolph Walker Foundation. And I'm sure you can only imagine, what that would mean to have such a relationship.
All right, so we have just 3 minutes to run up our conversation. I'll get to Mr. Walker, and I'll come back to you for your run-up. Mr. Walker, your final comments to any youth out there who might be interested in the arts, drama, play, film, and all. Any word to them?
First of all, you got to love it. You want to be involved in the arts, be it an actor. Most of the time, that's what they say, they want to be an actor. But you want to be an actor not because you see a lot of celebrities walking along the catwalk and being photographed here, there, and everywhere. You want to do it because it's something you love, something you're prepared to give a lot of sacrifice to, because it's a precarious profession. Today you're up, tomorrow you're down, and you've got to have that inner strength, that inner belief, and know that you are good enough, and the sky is the limit. And that is very, very important. Don't be influenced, don't be influenced. Don't be guided by pound, shillings, and pence. Like in every profession.
Yes, I was going to ask that question before it escaped me. Is it a profitable industry to find yourself in, your profession? In terms of the pound,
it depends on who you are. I'm not going to elaborate on that. It depends on who you are.
Okay.
It's for me personally, it's been all right. There's been lots of ups and downs, but I can't sit back and comfortably and say, even at the age of 82, that I have made it. No. And even I'm just going to take another minute to say, it's extraordinary, or is it amazing, that there are a lot of Idris Elba, to name one, a lot of actors now who are Hollywood names, who from the UK, born in the UK, of West Indian African parentage, have had to go to America to make a name for themselves. There hasn't been, up until now, really an international actor who has remained in the UK and is working on par with the likes of Idris Elba. Now that is a reflection, in a way, on the society. And that really answers the question in a nutshell.
Interesting, interesting. Well woven, let me put it that way. Very much well woven. All right, so final comments to any young lady, young man watching us.
Well, I would just say that try and build relationships. Don't put the search for money first. Relationships and networking is what would bring all of that later. And I think that with his presence here, I would encourage anyone who gets the opportunity to meet him, per our itinerary, try and build relationships. And I think that's the way to go.
Well, time is exhausted, and I would say a big thank you to you, Mr. Walker, for granting us this very rare opportunity to have this conversation with you. Mr. Idana, thank you for pulling in here as well into the studio. I'm hoping that your plans for the period that you're going to be here would all be successful. I wish you well, sir.
Bless you. Thank you very much.
And this has been a conversation with Mr. Rudolph Walker. I've been here as well with Mr. Yidana Hamid Kobila. I hope I got the pronunciation of the name correct. He's MD for Damba Multimedia. And I'm hoping that, God willing, tomorrow morning there will be a repeat broadcast to the show live on ETV at 10 a.m. You'd catch it. But immediately after this, Girl Vibes is up next. Do stay with us.